be back with you. I'm Jim LaPierre. This is SoberNow.com. We've had more than our share of technical difficulties this week, but it's good to be good to be back with you. Today's topic is by request, and it's a heavy topic. It's something that's hard to talk about, but it's more important than ever. We're going to be talking about how to carry on when you lose a loved one to the disease of addiction. Clinically, the term for those of us who have a loved one in active addiction is to be an affected other. And at this point, I think all of us are affected, even if it's not someone in your family or your friend circle, certainly between your coworkers and people that you know in the community. I think at this point, all of us know someone that's affected. Our goal, of course, as recovery allies, as people in recovery, is to make recovery more visible than ever. And unfortunately, what is also more visible than ever is the impact that addiction has. We're seeing, unfortunately, a huge uptick during this pandemic in overdose deaths. And so it's more important than ever that we talk about them. I appreciate folks who are willing to have those conversations. One of the most extraordinary things that I've seen in all the years that I've been working with substance use disorder is a lot more honesty in obituaries and in conversations that we have in social media about the reasons why we've lost loved ones. We've stopped saying things euphemistically like that they died unexpectedly and started saying things very clearly like that our loved one died of an overdose. So each month I get to facilitate a support group with my friend Amy. We've been doing this for years, and it's in support of those who have loved ones in active addiction. Kind of an informal, non-12-step approach to what my friends in Al-Anon and Nar-Anon do. Extraordinary to me that we are at the levels that we're at in terms of the epidemics. The epidemic of opioid addiction, I think, is something that we're all aware of. I think what's often lost sight of is that alcohol has been at epidemic levels in the United States for over a century now, and is easily overshadowed or not considered. So when I look at support groups for folks with loved ones in active addiction, I think, wow, why aren't there more of these and why aren't they full? Because at this point, all of us are contending with that, and all of us have an awareness of that. So when I think about what kind of suggestions and advice do I want to give to people who are grieving or are adjusting to life without a loved one because of the disease, I think about starting with the same advice that I give to those who have a loved one in active addiction. And to be perfectly frank, that advice oftentimes is not well received. What I notice is a tendency to put our whole lives on hold when we have a loved one in active addiction. We sit on the edge of our seat waiting for the next shoe to drop, waiting for the phone to ring. There's a definite tendency to not take care of ourselves, not pursue goals, and there's a lot of unwittingly things that just naturally occur when we do this. We end up ignoring our non-addicted family members. We end up disconnecting from our purpose, from organizations, from friends, and none of this is intentional, but there's so many times when it feels like the world should just stop, when it feels like what we're experiencing is simply too overwhelming. And I think the hardest message that I have to give folks who have loved ones in active addiction is it's important to tend to your self-care. It's important to manage your health. It's important to do things that nurture your soul while you're going through something that's extraordinarily difficult. And my challenge to folks is I hope and I pray that your loved one will be ready to receive help. And when they are, how healthy will you be at that juncture? Now, when we lose a loved one to addiction, unspeakably tragic. And again, it feels like the whole world should just stop. It doesn't. It keeps going. And then the question is, how do we keep going? How do we adjust? How do we properly grieve this loss? In a little while, I'm going to share with you a piece of writing that was shared with me. I'm fortunate to have an amazing number of people in recovery as part of my circle, and also to have in my circle folks who have experienced profound losses because of the disease of addiction. So I'll be sharing that in just a minute. I certainly welcome your questions, your comments. Please just throw something into the chat on Sober Now's Facebook page, on Choose Health's Facebook page, or on my personal Facebook page. I would love to hear from you. Love to hear what your experience, strength, and hope is. How have you dealt with this? I think about my friends in recovery, and I think about the work that I get to do professionally. I can tell you that you never become desensitized to the losses. It never fails to feel like this incredible kick in the gut where you just can't breathe for a minute. I prepare clinicians that serve folks who live with substance use disorders that going into the field, that they should know that unfortunately you will lose people that you care about, and you will lose them from the places that the disease takes us, and you will lose them unfortunately to what my friends in recovery call the rule of threes, which is that ultimately if we continue to use, if we continue to drink, that there are only three places that addiction will ultimately take us, and they are jails, institution, and death. I know that having experienced the loss of a loved one, excuse me, we tend to have an intense awareness of anniversary dates. We remember them and grieve on the anniversary of their death, on birthdays, on holidays. There's always something there that reminds us of that loss. And as I was preparing to share this talk with you all, my brain provides a soundtrack to every experience I have. And as I was writing, I heard Linkin Park's song, One More Light, playing in my head. The lyric is, the reminders pull the floor from your feet. In the kitchen, one more chair than you need. And you're angry, and you should be. It's not fair. It's a very strange thing to hate a disease. It's a very strange thing to be angry at the disease of addiction. Obviously, there's nothing that I can do to hurt this horrible, evil force that has taken away people I love, whether temporarily or permanently. And so the best that I can do is to help the next person that wants to overcome the disease and make positive changes in their life. And I've learned that coping with powerlessness is a vitally important part of keeping myself healthy, keeping myself sane. I've learned that growing spiritually and working through suffering is really paramount to the quality of my life and frankly, to avoiding burnout. I'm going to share with you a piece of writing by a mom who lost sadly 2 adult children to the disease of addiction. Her words are very poignant. Her guidance is very pragmatic. And again, would love to hear your thoughts, what your experience has been. But she writes, your life ends as you know it. The stress and the terror of addiction is over, and it's replaced with so much grief and guilt, and even relief. Grief that they are gone forever, guilt that you enabled them, and thoughts that maybe you were a bad parent. Relief that they are no longer suffering, and your stress and terror are over. The grief never goes away. It is so big and overpowering. You are forced to take life in second increments, 1 minute at a time, because to look at the whole day is simply overwhelming. making it easier to just shut down and hide. You can't shut down and hide, though. Life goes on around you. People are going on walks, having babies, living, shopping. No one notices the hell you're in except only the people who themselves have suffered the loss of an addict. You have to literally force yourself to move, get up, eat good food, exercise, and go see a counselor. One foot after the other, hunched over carrying the huge weight of your loss around until you start to feel just one little release of your grief. Just a tiny little ray of light comes through. That could take days, months, or even years. Everyone is different. It's something you must go through. You can't shove it down inside of you, and you can't avoid it. That will tear you apart, piece by piece. The light gets brighter, I promise. Your memories are all you have of them now, and those can be a double-edged sword. The good memories make you smile. Some even make you laugh. Then they make you really, really sad all over again. It's a roller coaster that you can't get off. Take the ride. It's the only way out. Get up every day, even if it's just to take a walk to the living room and sit back down. Tomorrow, take a shower. Life goals become small little steps that you must take. Some days you might take a shower and go to work. Other days, like today for me, after 3 years, you might take a sick day and stay home, sitting in your PJs in the living room, and that's okay. Whatever you do, do not do this alone. Most of your people will abandon you. Friends from long ago, dear friends you spoke to every day, they will fade off. It's not their fault. They don't know what to say or how to act. They feel bad, but deep down, they're thankful it wasn't their child. They may be dealing with a family member who suffers from substance use disorder too. They don't want anyone to know the same way you didn't want anyone to know. Find new people. People in recovery will relate well to you. Trauma and grief is something that you share in common. They will also help educate you, letting you know that you weren't a bad parent after all. That they were raised by dirty wolves, you are not a dirty wolf. Listen to music, any kind of music you like. It helps lift your spirits and you might find yourself singing along. Don't feel bad for that. Cherish those times when you almost feel like yourself. They become more frequent as time passes, and they show you that you will be okay and that there is light ahead. You will be okay. Say that to yourself a lot. You will be okay. Be grateful that you didn't miss the dance. The author closes with a lyric from Garth Brooks from the song The Dance. For a moment, all the world was right. How could I have known you'd ever say goodbye? And now I'm glad I didn't know the way that it would all end, the way it would all go. Our lives are better left to chance. I could have missed the pain, but I'd have had to miss the dance. I can only imagine the pain of losing my adult children. One of the things that people with very good intentions say is, I'm sorry for your loss. And we've been socially conditioned to say things like that. And frankly, I think it's well-meaning but hollow. I think a lot of things we do around addiction are well-meaning but hollow. I know that we had good intentions if we enabled. I know that we were trying to protect our loved ones. And we may feel that we should feel guilty now, or we might question whether or not we were good parents. I also know that it's a cultural norm. It's an actual expression that we're to honor the dead, that we're to only speak well of the dead. But if I ask someone, how do you honor them? They're usually not sure. I've lost a lot of people that I love and care deeply about to the disease, and what I've come to for myself is that honoring them means first, foremost, and always that I live the life that they would want for me. I like to believe that my loved ones are in heaven or in some type of better place, that they are no longer suffering, that they are free, that they experience joy and love. And so I want to make sure that I am doing the same. In order to do that, I have to grieve. And what I've learned as a counselor, as a therapist, is that in order to truly grieve, I need active support from other people. What I've learned is that when I experience pain alone, I don't tend to let go. It's almost as if I recycle the same pain. It's almost as though I can cry the same tears and I can have the same thoughts and I can miss them terribly and profoundly. But it doesn't really result in release. When I allow myself to share my pain with good people, I get to make the conscious choice that the amount that I've expressed is the amount that I'm going to leave in that room. I'm not going to continue to carry it. My loved ones wouldn't want me to carry it. What I learned as a therapist is that regardless of why your loved one dies, a lot of us are afraid to grieve and let go because we're afraid of losing the good memories. We're afraid of somehow that maybe letting go of that pain will cause us to let go of good stuff as well. And I can promise you that it doesn't ever work that way. The mind is sometimes cruel. What will happen very naturally when your loved one dies is that you will find it increasingly difficult to hear their voice in your minds. You will find it increasingly difficult just to picture their face. Please know that that is not only natural, it is inevitable. So letting go of the pain of losing them won't cause you to forget those good things. Unfortunately, that will happen naturally. I think it is unnatural for us to punish ourselves for those losses, but I know that people do that all the time. I think that it is unnatural to feel ashamed that your family has been ravaged by addiction, but I know that people do that all the time. I like to believe that we're reducing the stigma around substance use disorder and the effect that it has on families, but I also know that we have long to go, far to go. I'm a big believer that people need things to do. Whenever I go to a funeral or a wake, I notice that people seem to have all this restless energy, and whenever I go to gatherings afterwards, I notice that there's way too much food, always. And it's like one of the few things that people can think to do is we make casseroles for loved ones that have lost family members. What I choose to do is to be active as a recovery ally, which is something that anyone can be. To be an ally is to be active as a supportive person for those who seek addiction recovery, and there are countless ways in which we can do that. I get to be an ally as a clinician, as someone who is knowledgeable and responsive to folks who live with substance use disorder. I get to be an ally as a landlord. I make sure that I am very, very willing, able, and promoting myself as providing housing options to people in early recovery. I am an ally as an employer. I am very biased in favor of hiring people who are in recovery from substance use disorder. In my experience, giving such a person a second chance results in incredible productivity, loyalty, and things that frankly, as an employer, you can't buy. I get to be an ally as someone who is active in my local community recovery center, as someone who volunteers for related programs. I get to be an ally as someone who advocates for greater services and for greater resources for people who are seeking recovery from addiction. I get to do all of those things and a lot more. And one of the coolest rewards that you might not know to anticipate, I get to spend a lot of time with people in recovery from substance use disorder. And frankly, they're the most amazing people that I know. And it's incredible to me how much we have in common. As the author of the essay wrote, connect with people in recovery because they will understand you, relate well to you. They too have lost loved ones to addiction, and unfortunately, um, we're likely to lose more as we go forward. So I know that we need each other more than ever. I know that these are very trying times. I also know that the people who, in my life, who are faring the best during this pandemic, during this time of socio and political uncertainty, during this time in which so much seems to be uncertain and unknown, the people I know who are faring the best in that are almost 100% people in recovery from substance use disorder. I'm amazed by how healthy their perspective is. I'm amazed at how spiritual their outlook is. I am always impressed, and I learn from folks in recovery all the time. I have found enormous value in very simple spiritual practices, things like saying the Serenity Prayer, things like separating what I have control over and what I don't, moving towards acceptance, even of things that I find uniquely painful because the cost of not accepting is too high and I'm not willing to pay it. I get to have a lot of joy in my life today, despite the fact that I have also known a great deal of suffering, despite the fact that I have lost a great deal. And I get to do those things because my higher power connects me to incredible people, folks that I consider chosen family. And so I invite you to be a part of that, to do that. If you are a person who has never experienced addiction, I'm very happy for you. If you're a person who has lost a loved one to addiction or has someone in active addiction, I really encourage you to become an ally and to seek ways of doing that. I really encourage you to check out 12-step programs like Al-Anon and Nar-Anon. But I also encourage you to check out meetings, 12-step fellowships that are designed for folks who are seeking a recovery from substance use disorder. Groups like Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. And that's as simple as Googling the name of your town, local AA meetings, and a meeting list will come right up. It'll be the first response that you see in Google. And if you look at that meeting schedule, there will be an indicator on the chart as to which meetings are open meetings and which ones are closed. Open meetings indicate that absolutely anyone is welcome to attend. And I urge you to, because what you will learn just listening to people in recovery talk about their experience, strength, and hope, solutions that they've found, is unlike any other experience I've had, frankly. You may have seen a representation of a meeting in a television show or a movie. You may have seen that folks introduce themselves by saying things like, "Hi, I'm Jim, I'm an alcoholic." When I've attended meetings, I usually say, "Hi, I'm Jim, I'm a supporter." "Hi, I'm Jim, I'm a visitor." Either of those is very acceptable. And what's extraordinary to me is that I've never been more welcomed by any organization or group than I have been at AA and NA meetings. Some of the best people in the world and folks that I consider to be the true experts. What I get to do professionally is help individuals, families, and groups move towards healthier lives, move towards harm reduction, medicated assisted treatment, or abstinence. I support all pathways to recovery. And the message that I have for all people, independent of their experience, is the vitality of taking excellent care of ourselves. And so I remind you once again that that is vital, and I invite you to connect with me. Jim@sobernow.com is the easiest way to do that. Shoot me an email. Let me know what questions you have. Sometimes folks are overwhelmed and they don't even know where to start. I welcome those questions. Let me know about topics that you'd like to see discussed in future Facebook Live talks. I'm on every week. Typically we do Thursdays at noontime. Like I said, this week we had some technical difficulties. But the talks are always broadcast again and maintained on our Facebook page for Sober Now. Would love to have you check out Sober Now's YouTube channel. Over 90 videos there on different topics that relate to recovery from substance use disorder, recovery from trauma, and the experience of being an affected other. I would love to have you check out the low-cost home study programs that we have available at sobernow.com. It's actually pretty amazing right now. A lifetime purchase is available at $99. We have home study programs for people who are seeking recovery from addiction or are in the earliest phases of recovery. And we have separate programs for people who are affected others and have loved ones in active addiction, and how to best support yourselves and your family in going through that process. Again, that's a lifetime membership. We're adding content every single week, and we want to connect with you. So again, please shoot me an email, jim@sobernow.com. Let me know what your experience is with this and other topics, and please continue to take excellent care of yourselves. I'll look forward to talking with you all again